This is the District 2 Sports Podcast with your hosts, Gregory, Devin, and Big G, your voice for local sports in Southern Virginia. You can listen to this episode and hundreds of others on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you listen to your podcast. Give us a like and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and X. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
They're not in my top 12. They're not in my top 12. I told y'all. They're not.
Big G got his teams in and they all lost last week. So,
how did you get that? I got two teams in and one of them lost.
I need to throw one more shout out. I got a shout out to my little guy over there on the left, little Dev.
The spreadsheet is back out, and it's back.
Oh, you have one for basketball?
I got one for basketball.
Yes.
Really? You're not for Spurs? Okay. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Whoa,
So now
man,
we're going hot now. It's going hot.
For anybody listening tonight, or anybody paying attention, if y'all don't know, the mob is in the NFL.
Not a fan? Not a fan of the lo-fi?
That music was atrocious.
That was weak. That did not.
That was the first thing I wrote down. As soon as it started, I put, not crazy about this.
All right, so District 2 Sports Podcast. We're back in another episode. And today we're in the Rocky Mount, Virginia area, Ferrum, Virginia, I guess I should say, with the Ferrum Panthers head football coach, Coach Kevin Sherman. Coach, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, Gregory?
Good. Thank you for coming on. It's a pleasure to always talk about football with different levels. Today we're on the D2 level. My first thing, Coach, have you been able to enjoy your summer at all, or is it all portal and recruiting and get ready for next year?
Well, I think it's different at every level, but I think this year in particular, as we made this transition to Division II, I'm really working towards fall camp. I hope to get a break here in the next week or so and take a little downtime, but my mind is purely focused on training camp and first ball game because we open up week 0 against Catawba.
Yes, sir. Well, I wanted to ask because, it seems like the administration there at Ferrum has put an emphasis on athletics. You came in at an exciting time, them announcing that they're going to go from D3 to D2. Was that a big factor of you coming to Ferrum to coach starting in 24, knowing that they're going to be going to D2?
Yeah, I can tell you about that story. I never knew we were going Division II when I accepted the job here at Ferrum. It was one of those jobs that I knew I'd been in Division I for a number of years and been blessed to be around some Hall of Fame coaches. And then I, at the time, being a local guy, Radford, Virginia guy, attended Ferrum. My wife's from Fayetteville, North Carolina. So it was an opportunity for me to come back home and come back to my alma mater and try to get back to our winning ways and do some neat things. And then 2 weeks on the job, I'm purely focused on our seniors, the ODAC, understanding the ODAC conference and who our opponents are and things of that nature. And then they bring me in, Cleve Adams, who was previous head coach, who is now the director of athletics. Him and Dr. Martin, our school president, bring me in and say, by the way, Coach, we're going Division II. And I'm like, excuse me? So it was and then my mind immediately shifts to looking forward, is managing the D3 roster and our seniors to make sure they go out on the right way because they've laid the foundation of where we are as a program. And, you have to respect them and their hard work and dedication, the effort and everything that they put into this thing. And we wanted to make sure that we put an emphasis and focus on them and their well-being and make sure they left this thing the right way and exited, in a good, with a good, taste in their mouth as an alum and Black Hat history and all those things. We wanted to make sure that those guys went out the right way. And then you kind of shift your recruiting. You have to shift your recruiting plan and your focus to athletic aid world and equivalencies and all those things. But I'd say we've done a good job as a staff of managing that, but we try to keep the main thing and not get too far ahead of ourselves and then slow this thing down and just do things the right way.
Coach Cleve Adams, you just brought up a name that just sticks near and dear to my heart because I'm an old Averett grad. So,
Man, okay.
yeah, please,
Awesome.
please tell him that we missed those glory days, and I'm hoping our new coach can get us back on the map. But we missed those glory days. I'm gonna tell you, Cleve was a heck of a coach and a heck of a guy. So I know that you're, I believe, a '92 grad there at Ferrum, and I guess the question, kind of piggybacking on what you've already said, if Ferrum job isn't there, do you make another move, or was it Ferrum or bust?
My wife would like to think it's no move at all. She like just sit still. But I think, as I'm getting, long in the tooth, as they say in this profession, with being 57 years old and over 35 years plus years of coaching, you kind of think about where you are in your profession and what's next. And, I've always had the goal of, the dream of being a head coach. And if it didn't work out, I would have just stayed, at the University of Buffalo and kept, working there and doing the job I was in and, being where my feet are and all those types of things. But I wouldn't say it was Ferrum or bust. But once it came open and Coach Adams said, hey, I'm going to move into the director of athletics position. I'd love to talk to you about being the head coach. My focus went strictly to that. And because it was an opportunity to, one, come back home and coach your alma mater and all those types of things that go into the, the emotions, the excitement, all the things that go into moving and transitioning. And I've done this a number of times, I hate to say, but, I would like to think that every decision I've made is based off of people, not off of money or job or anything like that. And do I have an opportunity to win? And I think that weighed heavily on this process. And when Coach Adams gave me a call, I didn't hesitate, and I put all my efforts into that in Ferrum College and how we can, build on what he's built on and add to this thing and make it better.
Coach, with that transition from D3 to D2, obviously you can offer some athletic scholarships. Has that opened up more doors as far as recruiting goes, versus when you were recruiting for the ODAC versus now for the Conference Carolinas?
No question. I think what it's done is got us in some different living rooms during that recruiting period of the type of players. And my thing when I first got back to Ferrum was we got to get the Commonwealth. We got to get our name back out in the Commonwealth because, we're in a different, arena with the D2 level. Emory and Henry, there's a big time rivalry down the road. They were a few years ahead of us, but now it's like, how can we make this thing, UVA wise, how can we make this thing go in the right direction and put us in position to where we can be successful. And I think in the recruiting process, what it has found that we're dealing with different young men and we're able to get in more homes and recruit different athletes. But there's two HBCUs in Richmond and Virginia State and Virginia Union, and you got your two far Southwest Virginia schools, and we're tucked away right in the middle of both of those, all four of those schools, and we took a strategic planning and how we can get Ferrum, get people from that 81 corridor and, the 29 corridor. How can we get student athletes in the local areas back on this campus? Because I can tell you a lot of kids from Roanoke didn't know where Ferrum was because it's been a long time, that they just didn't know where it was. They've heard about it. And the Carolinas were an hour from Greensboro. So that's another, Winston-Salem, that's another area to attack and, just recruit different talent and get in, what we're finding out is we're in a good space. We're recruiting the right kids. I'll say that. It's coming down to, we're not where we need to be right now from a athletic age standpoint because we're still in year one, provisional year one. This year will be provisional year two. And then hopefully year three, we're a full-fledged D2 member and then things change for us from that perspective as a program. But we're doing it. We're doing it the right way. We're doing it. We're not rushing into this thing. We're recruiting the right people, more so than the best players. But it's the right people that happen to be good football players. And Virginia's a high priority for us.
Coach, I know Gregory hit on this right off the get-go about the administration there at Ferrum. I mean, reaching back and, what I find amazing is 3 or 4, I'll name the names in just a second, but you guys are world known. Y'all world renowned known as far as coaching, but to go back and find guys that were in the program Plus, I mean, Coach Johnson basketball, you yourself with football, and then Eric there with baseball, and then him bringing along a consultant by the name, a Hall of Famer by the name of Billy Wagner. So I guess what I was going to ask you is, how is your camaraderie with everybody? Have y'all taken everybody underneath each other's wings? And is there any bets or any competition to see who's going to win a conference title, a regional title, a national championship? Is anything going on like that yet?
No, I tell you, it's right now it's all hands on deck with every sport. I was very excited. I got hired here in football. 2 weeks later, Eric Owens gets hired. I mean, it took us a little while to get JJ back in the fold, but all three of us were here at Ferrum at a time where Ferrum was winning in all athletics, all those three of those sports, and I think it's all sports we're taking that approach. It's all hands on deck, and how can we help each other? And because we're all in one place. Back then, people don't know Billy Wagner was a football player too. And he played baseball and football. Back then we had 12, 13 guys that played football and baseball, and that was a special time at Ferrum. Right now with the roster sizes and changes, me and myself and Eric have always talked about it, but it's hard to find dual sport athletes, especially at the college level. You have to be a special person, a special kid, that academically, athletically, to handle those things. But we're just excited to get these people back on campus and help with getting back Ferrum College to what we've known. And what's in our DNA. It's toughness, it's hard work, it's dedication. It's we come from all different backgrounds, and this place has so much history that it saved so many different lives. We're a school that's been through change before. From the 2-year school, I came here when we transitioned to D3. We were independent. We didn't have a league. We had to travel all over the country to play. And now they switched leagues in Division III a couple times. So, we know how to do this, but it's just going to do it the right way. And everybody's got to be on the same page. But I think once again, that all goes back to leadership. And Dr. Mirka Martin, our president, and Cleve Adams, director of athletics.
Well, I don't want to add insult to injury, and this might have hurt the program, but I was a knee injury away from being that Ferrum Panther myself, and I just almost, and I was going to play for Coach Knapp, so I know
Okay.
I remember Coach Abe. So,
Yep.
but listen,
he's still back around.
Yeah, tell him I said hello if you get a chance. I miss that guy. He's a encyclopedia of knowledge, that's for sure.
Oh, well, we still use him because that's the thing. When you need to make a call to somebody, you got to know somebody that knows somebody.
Absolutely.
Between him and Bobby James, they know everybody.
Absolutely. So you just mentioned something a few moments ago about dual athletes, and I presented this to a coach, and it was kind of, I guess, in a way, a backwards kind of question, because I always hear it on the baseball side of things, whereas, baseball coaches are asked a million times, do you prefer a baseball player or a player that basically plays baseball year round, or do you want that athlete that's played, football, that's played basketball, that's been in different situations, 2 seconds left on the clock and you're at the free throw line shooting a foul shot to tie or win a ball game, or you're leading your team down the field in a 2-minute offense? I mean, is that a kid that you're looking for that's and the other thing is, I don't know of any football leagues that are playing, year round. So are you looking for that athlete to play football there at Ferrum?
Well, I tell you, my recruiting, the way I've, was taught, and, my processes and recruiting is, I think you want a high school kid that you're dealing with. You want that kid to be able to do as many things as he can do in high school to show his athleticism. And then is more importantly, is he a good teammate? And, because basketball, you like football players that play basketball. And then, of course, you like football players that run track. And I think there's also dual athletes in high school where, quarterbacks were pitchers back in the day. And some of them still are today. So you kind of got to, I think each case is different. But I think if you can find a kid that's talented and plays many sports in high school, now you can know that helps you in the recruiting process, because you have a body of work to say, hey, this kid is this, that, or, the measurables, the speed, the quickness, the athleticism. And then, it follow up with the academic piece. He can handle all those things. And then when it comes down to college, baseball, like I said, baseball is year round. There's not too many dual sport, basketball, football players anymore. I think the thing that we got here at Ferrum is, our track program is doing well. They've got a number of athletes, and we've had football players compete in track, and so we use that to our advantage. As each head coach, we always communicating, hey, I got a track guy or a football guy that ran track. He's this, he's a jumper, he's this, he's a shot put thrower. So those things, now we just got to communicate in the spring if we're competing in the same at the same time, we have to do some great, communicating as coaches. And I think, especially now, we're able to have spring football practice here at Ferrum. We just had our first spring practice, this past year, and we had our first spring game, and a lot of excitement. And so, all those things that go into recruiting an athlete are, we take it into account, and we're always communicating with other head coaches on our staff. And I remember I was out in December recruiting, and I called Eric about a quarterback in the Richmond area and said, hey, man, he's a pitcher, he's a righty, he throws this thing, and he's immediately on it. Or, there's a track kid, I'm reaching out to Coach Kidd. So we're all three recruiting that kid about Ferrum College. Whether they come here and play both sports, we get them to Ferrum College.
Coach, talking about the transition from D3 to D2, I want to ask you, what's been the biggest difference, and does playing that ODAC, which has the WNLs, the Randolph-Macons, does playing a team like those teams like that maybe kind of help you better prepare for playing D2 football as far as their talent levels go? What have you seen in that transition?
Well, I think first of all, the ODAC was a good football league. They're very talented, and they're tough. They know, each school knows what their identity is. And I think my first year, I was, I kind of took it personal a little bit. They ranked us 7th, which rightfully so, or 8th or whatever it was. And I just said, hey, we're not going to finish that. We're going to do everything in our power to go out here and compete our brand of football and our style of football, and then we're going to let the chips fall where they may. It's the same approach here. As we moved into D2, they picked us 7th in our new league, Conference Carolinas, which is fine. I expected that, and I think the big difference between Division III and Division II is, the teams in our league are what more they're advanced in the recruiting processes, and they're older. In some cases, they were bigger and stronger than us. But I think what we found out when we mixed our first signing class with that senior class of from the Division III class is we had a good football team, but with the depth wasn't where we wanted it to be. And I think as we approach it, moving forward is finding the kids that are a little bit the measurables change for us a little bit. And I think, football is football. I think, there's parity all amongst college football, Division III, Division II, FCS, FBS, whatever you want to call it. So there's enough talent to go around to have good football teams. It's, now with the transfer portal world, how quickly can you become a team? Because, Division I, you have windows that you can, gel together as a team. With this level, you don't have that luxury all the time. So how do you combine those guys and within, a month and a half, become a football team that, that you want, you say you want to remember November, and where you can get to November and feel good about yourself as a program. Last year, I can tell you I was a little worried because I'm taking an 18-year-old kid or young man into a game where they're 21, 22-year-old, fifth-year seniors, grad students, and, we're playing with guys that played 10 games. This past year, we played 11 games, so that was new to us. So we had an extra week of football. And so, but I think moving forward, we understand what it takes. I think we know where we are as a program moving forward and where we need to go. But it's the process changes every year because it's a new team. And this is Team 72 here at Ferrum now, and we're already seeing a different football team, and we look different. We move different, but it's about consistency and gelling together and becoming one as a team.
Coach, the hot topic has been the portal. Maybe it's fun for the fans, maybe a headache for the coaches, just kind of navigating all that. I see you got some guys from East Carolina. I think I saw NC State, maybe Marshall. So you get some guys coming up from the D1 level. I mean, how are you guys handling that? Do you have like I know the D1 level you can find like maybe a GM. Are you handling it all yourself, or is someone on your staff handling that?
I tell the assistant coaches, you're the head coach of your room. If you have a portal guy or somebody that's interested in Ferrum, get the names to the coordinators, then get them to me. But as far as the transfer portal here, I've been in that world and I know what it feels like and looks like and sounds like. I just know we have to be careful because I really don't want to deal in the portal with just blindly recruiting a kid, because I want to know where they're from, their high school coach. Is there a relationship, first of all? Do I have a relationship with his coach or where he's coming from? Because I got, a young staff, and they always like, how do you know so many people? I've been blessed to be around a lot of people. So, and, still have a lot of contacts in my phone. So we dabble in the portal, but it's generally dealing with a young man that we have a relationship with, or somebody on our staff has a relationship with. Or if somebody just wants to come to Ferrum. I think that's the heart, at this level. You go back and look at the data from last year at the Division II level. Most of the guys at the D2 level didn't. There was a few that went up, and there was a few that went down. But most of the D2 guys went lateral. And, and I think that's the most important thing we did as a D2 level is create a transfer portal window where it mirrors Division I, and it gives us an opportunity to manage our rosters, because before we didn't have a portal. So Division I would have a spring practice and know what they needed and then recruit our all-conference players. You look at our league, I mean, the number of guys in our league went Division I to G6 or whatever they call it now and up. And I think, managing a roster at any level is it's tough, because you better recruit your locker room harder than you recruit anybody, because the way the transfer portal is working. But with the rule changes, we'll see what it is. We're going to have to adjust again this year. And I'm up for the challenge, and I think our staff is make sure we're, more importantly, over communicating and all on the same sentence, as I like to say, and that we're moving in the right direction. But if we have a young man that wants to attend Ferrum, we're going to recruit him, and then the ultimate thing is get him on campus and show him who we are as people.
Coach, I got to throw a flag on Gregory right now. He blindside blocked me on the kickoff return, so I just got to throw. He muted me before I could get my question out, so we got a penalty on him already. So.
Okay, man.
Listen, got to get a smile out of you right here. You got to be licking your chops right now, because, I'm kind of a stat guy, kind of a roster guy. I look at your rushing, passing, and receiving yardage and stuff like that, and you're young. I mean, you've got Lee back, who got you 558 yards on the ground last year. Faucic passing 1,801 yards and 13 touchdowns, and then Gray with 767 yards receiving. All of them back, all of them young. How much are you looking forward to it this year on offense?
Well, I think I'm excited about, the core group of guys we have coming back. You mentioned, Eli Fouts, who was at Emory and Henry and transferred back home because he's a Franklin County kid. Jalen Lee, the running back from Rocky Franklin County. And then Omarze Gray from Fleming in Roanoke. Yeah, he comes in and he's rookie of the year as a freshman. So I'm excited to have him back, and I think I'm interested to see where an offensive line comes in at this year, because we did lose some guys there, and I feel good about the core guys we have, but I'm excited to see what the guys that we bring in and how quickly we can gel, as an offense, and not just off. I mean, it's just as a team, but offensively, when I first got here, I wanted to create an identity in who we are as a brand, Ferrum College. And of course, anything else, you want to run the football, but you want to take care of the football. And I think that's where we've improved as a staff, as an offense, and as a team is don't beat yourselves. And the punter is the best offensive player we have, and we got a good punter. he was all region as a D3 punter. And I thought he was, all conference worthy last year, but he didn't make it because at this level, you have some great specialists. And so I feel good about the nucleus of guys we got coming back. I don't really look at the stats. I just look at the production and how we can find ways to identify who can make plays for us and then adjust our scheme around those players and then find out what they can do. And I think in all three areas, from an offense, defense, and special teams, we've done a great job of advancing as a program and being consistent and give us a chance to win on Saturdays. But we got to find a way to get better at that this year. And I'm a big emphasis on offense is being good at situational football. And because that's lost its way in this whole thing, we have to be situational masters to be able to win some games.
Coach, I'll speak in code right here to you. And I know Gregory's got a few more questions to ask, but I'll speak in code. There's a little town about 30 miles east of you, I think on 58, I believe it is. Just come down 58 and you'll run right into us. And I know where a whole line of hogs are at a special high school here in this local area. So if you need some guys to provide you some holes for your running backs and give your quarterback some time, we can get them to you.
Yeah, we need them. Ain't no if we need them. So when one thing, that's the thing I've found out at this level as well is with the transfer portal. If you have the measurables as an offensive lineman and you're 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", and you're up, you're getting recruited to move up, to add depth to whatever, or to go play. And I think, we have to change our profiles and what we're looking for in recruiting because, all D1s do is look at your all league roster and then they go from there. And so that's why I'm saying we got to do a better job of, recruiting our locker room but more importantly, recruiting kids that want to be here. And we're always looking for linemen. So if you have, just shoot me a text. I won't die. We'll be there.
Absolutely. And I can guarantee you, I know where at least 4 or 5 of those 6'3", 300-pound guys are because you're going to see about 2, maybe even a quarterback included that's going to probably get about 1,000 yards apiece this year down here. So I'll definitely get those to you.
Yeah, we love the South Side too now. So that's not too far away.
Coach, I want to ask you, just looking at your career, it's been mostly on the offensive side of the ball, or maybe it's all been on the offensive side of the ball as far as like wide receiver, running back. I know you're the quarterbacks coach there at Ferrum, but how much are you into the game planning there with Coach Clark and Coach Santiago as far as scheming up on the offensive side of the ball?
Well, I think, when I first got here, the big question was what are we going to do? How are we going to do it? What are we going to do? And I brought a system that I've known for years, and I think Coach Clark has done a phenomenal job as the coordinator. And I think coaching quarterbacks the last couple of years, it's been fun, it's been good, and I try to be in as much game planning as I can. But I trust these guys to go out. They know the system. It's year 3 now. They know who we are, what the system we're in, and it's putting those pieces in the right places. More importantly for me, and then, I'm on Sunday. I say my piece. I say a little bit on Monday after watching tape, and then we kind of look at things each day, what works, what doesn't, what needs to be tweaked, what needs to be changed, or even taken out. So, I let these guys coach and do their job. I want to be the head coach that's it got his hands in everything, and you want to be around and touch everything, but not just change things in the middle because it's all about the kids, what they can handle. And you got to remember we're still a young football team, and we still have a mixture of the rosters, the management, the team. So we got to be careful that, I tell myself every day, keep it simple, stupid. So, we're trying to do the right thing and do what our kids can do and do well.
Coach, I'm going to piggyback off Gregory's question just now a little bit and just ask, you've been on every level there is to coach and see athletes. What do you see is the absolute difference in, say, a junior college, a D3 player, a Division II, Division I, FCS, FBS player? My feeling is if you're good, you're good. But what is the actual differences that you see on each level?
Well, I think, at Division One level, I think, they're your no-brainers, and a year in advance who you want to recruit. And I think even at the JUCO level, we sign kids up from the JUCO level, and then that I didn't think we would get in on. And he's still standing there with the way the recruiting is going right now, and that we were lucky to get on this young, some guys. And I think it's the measurables. But more importantly, you got to find the right fit that fits who you are, and then more importantly, where you are. Because not everybody is, we're not in a metropolitan area. So, but most schools at this level are in a rural areas. And so you have to find a kid that wants some of those things. And then more importantly, you got to show kids that, hey, you're building a program that they can come in here and make a difference. My thing is, guys, I tell these coaches all the time, I don't care if you're Division I's recruiting them in FCS. Those are the kids you better be, shooting the stars for and touch periodically, because they may be standing at the end of this thing. So, but we want to, because we know the guys that are, between the FCS and Division II ranks, we know those guys. And there are some guys that we felt like that were D2 guys that have gone on to be great D3 players, and because it was the opportunity to play and do all those things. So all those things kind of go into the recruiting process. Can this kid come in and help you early, or is he a year away? So we kind of all got to take those things into account, because at this level, you have to develop players. And that's kind of lost its way in college football a little bit. In my eyes, it's my opinion that, the development of the young men, it's kind of like, in Division II, we develop and then Division I's come get them, so it's kind of, I think, but every level, you're recruiting. Your recruiting profile changes, and I think the JUCO ranks is where I've tried to lean on too, but it's just harder at that level as well, because there's not too many JUCOs on the East Coast anymore, and I think the one up in New York just transitioned to D2. So you're talking about the Mississippi League, the Jayhawk, and out in Kansas, and then those places are from great distance. How do you get them here at Ferrum, Virginia? And so we just have to, not wholesale, do it that way. I'd rather recruit a high school kid and develop them, and because you have more time. But more importantly, we're going to do what's best for the program, do by our football team, and more importantly, these young men, and make sure they have a great college experience, getting a degree.
Coach, last couple for me. Just going back to the schedule, last year, you guys, your first year, they're playing the Conference Carolinas, go 4-7 overall. Obviously, you guys are playing behind the 8-ball, kind of transitioning and getting their scholarship and the depth up and everything. I want to get your take on, what went well last season, what you liked, and maybe what things you guys need to work on the off season going into 2026.
Well, I think good question. People always say, I played a Division I last year, my first year. We played VMI. We played a good half of football. And then, of course, at that level, the depth is going to kick in. And then from there, we play our first D2 game. We start out good. And then once again, the depth and the age and the maturity and the play, the things that go into winning, show up. And then, but the thing I like about it, our kids never quit. And they saw they could compete, at certain times and certain places and certain games. And is now, how can we get that to be on a consistent basis, week in and week out? And, we had our first D2 win against Shaw. A lot of excitement there. And then, so then, we had our first conference win. And, like you said, the conference I think it's a good football league. There's only 17. We're the 17th, the way it shaped out, we finished third by the standings in the league. But, it's not where we want to be as a program. The ultimate goal is to win and compete for championships. But we understand there's a process, and how you do those things on a daily, weekly, yearly, process. We have to take that into account. And like I said, we finished 4-7. There was a lot we had all league players. We had 16 academic All-American, 16 academic all-league guys. We had 8 make the CSC academic team. We had a rookie of the year on offense. We had a linebacker we had 5 players made players of the week throughout the season. So those are some great things that we won the, sportsmanship award for the league as a team. So those things, they matter. And that's what I want our team to understand. Those things are great, but they're program builders. They're not the standard. The standard is we want to win. We want to do the little things right. And we want to give ourselves an opportunity to win every Saturday. And this year, our schedule is not going to change much with the exception of adding Emory and Henry and replacing, VMI now, which is a great, since I've been back here and we knew we were going D2, I think, myself and Coach Hunter and Emory Henry have been trying to find a way to get this game back on the schedule for both institutions, not just for me. I think it's a great state rivalry in Southwest Virginia, and my days when I played here, it was a great rivalry, and it was good to bring the Cricket Road Classic back. So this will be the first one here at our place, September 5th, and so we have those guys on the schedule for years to come, and we'll try to keep that going just because of the rivalry. Like I said, but I understand, we understand that we're not where we need to be as a program just yet. And I told our coaches and our team, I said, we're not going to sneak up on anybody anymore. So we have to do the little things right to take us where we need to go as a program. So we can't just go out there and say, oh, well, we beat them last year, or we did this, that. It's a different team, different year. We have to go to work. And I think the thing, like I said, we just had our first spring practice. That was, now you get 15 practices. Now you hit as much as you want to. That was new to our team. So then we had our first spring game, and then, so now as we transition into the summer months, these are the most important months heading into the fall. And, at this level, you can only allow so many certain things. And so we're trying to navigate our way through these processes. And then once we get together, we report July 29th, and the first game is August 29th. So it's close, it's near. And you can tell my mind is switched from relaxing to it's go time. So, but I'm excited about the opportunity, and it's like I said, a different team and different year, and looking forward to heading out to our media day here in a couple of weeks, and see the other teams where they think they are and where we think we are. And I'm trying to just kind of staying out of the way and keeping a low profile, and just going to work.
Coach, just last couple of minutes for me again. Just looking at the schedule, I love looking at the schedule and stuff like that. And you mentioned Emory and Henry and getting that rivalry back on there. How much of an emphasis is it to get, the Emory Henry, the UVAYs, you talk about Virginia Union and State, to get those on the schedules for those Commonwealth kind of rivalries? And then I want to ask about Concord. I mean, I know they're just across the line there in West Virginia. Is that something you guys are kind of making to end of the game year or last game of the year?
Yeah.
Rivalry?
I think, the way the scheduling is, I tell you, scheduling at this level is tough. So you got to do, I'm trying to get ahead in advance to, because conference realignment, teams are adding, leagues are adding teams, Mountain East teams make sense for us because of distance. CIAA teams make sense because of distance. SAC schools make, so you'll see, those types of games, in the future. And so it's very interesting at this level to find games and schedule games, and because there's not like everybody wants to, doesn't want to play Ferrum. It's just very competitive because those leagues have games in advance, and we're trying to get in the midst of it. And I think we're on end of a 2-year contract with Concord, so I'd like to keep that game from years to come, but they're adding a league, and they're adding a team in their league, so they kind of throws their schedule off of non-conference games that they can play. And then the SAC, same thing. So, CIAA, we're trying to, find a way to schedule those games, but I'm staying away from Virginia Union. You can tell them I said so. But no, I think, those are things that I'm always looking for in advance, is how can we put our kids in situations to give an opportunity to win and show us who we are in the Commonwealth of Virginia.
Coach, my last question to you is, what type of person, what type of athlete are you looking for, or are you recruiting there at Ferrum University College?
Well, I think there's so many attributes that go into the recruiting process. I think one, is he a good person? Is he a good kid? I think then it goes to, is he a leader? Of course, the measurables. But I'm really looking for smart, tough, dependable. And I think if you can find a young man like that, and then, does he fit our core values? And our core values are very, very simple: is tell the truth, be a gentleman, and love your brother, which means be a good teammate. So if you can do those three things, and by the way, you're a good student and you happen to play good football, we're going to recruit you. And I think recruiting is all about connection. It's all about relationships. And once you can create a relationship and connection, I think you have a shot. And then the next thing is get them on campus 3 to 4 or 5 times, and now you've got a better shot. And then at the end of the day, it comes down to dollars and cents. At this level, it's coming down to the money. And then, can you package a young man to where it makes sense for them and their family? But those are things we're learning on a daily basis and going through and learning as a college, not just a football program, not just athletics. It's a college. So, and this whole move has been about the college. It hadn't been about athletics. It's not about football. So, and I think, we're like-minded and everybody in our league, we're all faith-based. We're small college. We're similar. We're first-generational kids that go to school and have an opportunity to compete. And I tell you, this league is very, very tough. And you see some guys like, man, who is that? It's like, where'd he come from? And so it's very exciting. And I'm excited where we are as a college and a program. And I think the future's bright, but we got a lot of work to do.
Coach, very last question. This is more of a fun question here. All right, let's say September 5th, you guys have a home game, big rivalry game. You guys beat Henry at home. Where is Coach Sherman going out for a post-game meal?
In Tailgate Alley down there. Because that's, we have a great day. Coach Adams did an awesome job with creating an atmosphere from game days. As we have an alley, we tailgates, tents, barbecuing, all those types of things that go into it. And, we walk through it and fans are going crazy. And, I just look forward to going down there and spending time with my family, the coaches' families, the kids, seeing them run around and play in the dirt, play football. And then, of course, the fans, the families, the recruits are also down there. So that's typically where I go. And then I'll spend some time down there with the families and speak to them and win, lose, or draw, whatever. I mean, because it's about people and it's about relationships. So I don't typically go out very much after a game. A lot of times I just want to get home and watch somebody else struggle. So
I love that. That's a great answer, Coach. One place I really love, I mean, you probably already tried it over there by you guys, actually, by the university, is Back 40 Barbecue. Place has some good bit of brisket and some pork too.
Yeah. They support us over there, and
Nice.
we go over there, and they have some good servings and sizes, and you will get your money's worth. I can tell you that. So
Yes, sir.
I think anytime we can get a new eatery and close by here, that's an awesome thing, because we're going to take advantage of it. I know our staff has. So,
Coach, if you don't mind, you'll probably see a Cougar, a former Cougar, and a former what are y'all, Mennonites, Gregory? Eastern
Royal.
Royals, yeah. You probably see a Royal and a Cougar up there sometime, just to take in the game and get the game day experience from you guys.
Not a problem. Please let us know. You're more than welcome anytime. Anytime you're on campus, please come by and see us. We're always around. We welcome it. The more people we get back on campus, it's awesome. And I think this season, come on, see us. We got 6 great home games. We got 6 home games, which is, we'll have a night game that first game. And so we got a good home schedule, and I'm excited.
Coach, I've already told Coach Johnson, I'll tell you the same thing. I'm probably going to be like a little gnat over there. So, I mean, since I'm a Franklin County resident, you guys are close by. I'll come there and check some things out.
You're more than welcome. Hey, because when it's basketball season, I'm going to be in his ear too. So
I love that.
I'm going to be right behind his ear on the bench. So it's awesome, man. You're more than welcome anytime.
Thank you, Coach.
Yeah, Coach, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for, it's been 45 minutes. We thank you for coming on here and just talking some football and learning more about Ferrum College. Appreciate you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Kevin Sherman. Thank you, Coach.